here, karibu. If you've been with me for a while, welcome back again. So today's topic on motherhood is really about the changes we moms go through post childbirth. Yes, some of these changes we talk about in passing, some of them we do not, or they're just mentioned, and they're never really dived into, but the changes are real. Here I have decided to break it down into two, because we go through two types of changes, or at least for me, that is the emotional bit and the physical bit of it. And so I'll start with the emotional bit of it. Some of these things I think you've had. If you're new, or if you're an aspiring mom, if you're a mom, you must know. And if it's one of the things I've not touched, but you experienced, or you know somebody who experienced, feel free to comment down below. I will go to the emotional bit, which I think we really just talk about it in passing, but we never really dive into it. And so if you're a new mom, this is for you really. Here we go. Number one, I would really say is fear. How do I even explain fear or define fear? After you've given birth to a child, there's an excitement and joy that comes with it, but also there's this cloud of fear that comes with childbirth, because you are fearful of what sometimes we need not to be fearful about, but it just really happens as a mom, because you look at your newborn and you're like, okay, she's here, she's growing, she's gentle, she's fragile, and she will be fragile for a long time, and you figure that you're the only one who can be her rock. And not anyone else can take your place as a mom, of course. And so sometimes I personally wonder, okay, I want to be there for her forever. I hope to be there for her forever, or for as long as she can stand on her own 2 feet and defend herself and, face the world. And so there's that lingering cloud of fear that we sometimes are like, oh crap. I hope she, I can be her rock for as long as I can. The other type of fear is, with the changing, the world is changing really fast. More and more parents are we do not have as much control as our moms, for example, had, to be honest. Our children grow so fast. The amount of information that bombards them is a lot. It's a lot. And so they mature very fast. They are very independent. Their mindset is totally different. They will come back to you with questions and, whatnot. And and with that comes very little control. And so you hope that they just turn out to be well. I see some people bashing parents over how you've raised them, but I wouldn't be the one to judge. But sometimes the fear is, even as they grow, I can only do my best, and I can only do my part, and I know it's every parent's wish that the child turns out correct, and turning out great is relative, and especially in this time and age. And so you hope that even as your child grows, they become that nurturing, caring, humane type of child, gentle, generous, and all of that. And with interaction, social media, technology, blah blah blah, you don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. And so it's our sincere hope that they would be open enough to talk to us as parents. They would make us their friends, etc. And that is some of the fears that, okay, I personally face, although my child is very young. I see it with my nephew as he grows. You lose that grip. He's like, you're so much into his space, please chill out. And stuff like that. And so it's a fear that parents face. It's a very emotional type of fear, but it's there. Yes, I don't know if any of you parents have experienced it or are experiencing it, and how you're dealing with it, but it is there and it lingers in the air, at least for most of the moms I've spoken to. Something that also changes emotionally post-childbirth is perspective. And it's a great thing, to be honest, depending on how you look at it. After childbirth, there's a lot that changes, especially your perspective. Your perspective of humanity, your perspective of money, your perspective of what you define by nurturing, your perspective of patience, your perspective of so many things. I'll tell you, before that I had a totally different perspective towards so many things, and post childbirth it just happens. When they say motherhood changes you, really it does. It may not change entirely, but there's some elements about you that change. Your life definitely changes. If you are living alone, you'll have to live with your child, and you'll have to have support. Sorry, I was interrupted by the child, but as I was saying, perspective changes a lot. From a financial perspective, you also realize that you have to plan. You have to be a judicious planner. You have to be very judicious even in your spend. And yeah, when it comes to perspective as well, when it comes to nurturing, it changes in the sense that I think I've become more nurturing, not only to my children, but there's that, I feel for other moms, and I feel for their pain, and it pains me when I see moms struggling, because you know and you understand. You become less judgmental when it comes to other mothers, because it's totally different. How my child grows, how my child takes feedback, how my child sees things is totally different from how maybe a different mom will look at things. And so you really become less judgmental in how every parent raises their children, because children are different. There's no blueprint, to be honest. The other thing may or may not happen, but immediately post childbirth I suffered a great deal of insomnia. One, because of course the child was for the most part awake. Number two, it was just my uncertainties and fear, and I was like really overwhelmed with excitement and fear and uncertainties, and all those emotions are wired up in one. And so I suffered bouts of insomnia, and to some extent it was bordering postpartum depression, but it didn't, thank God. I sort of tried to manage it. And yeah, there are women who actually also suffer postpartum depression. It is real. It happens. It is not funny at all, especially if you have a young child. And yeah, just finding a way of dealing with it, having a support system sort of really helps. But that really affects the emotional bit of you, even as you try to maneuver your way around motherhood. And then there's the physical aspect of it that most people tend to focus on. May not happen, but there are things that people don't talk about, to be honest. Like when most people think weight gain happens, there are people who lose weight. Have you ever known that? Yeah, post childbirth, there are people who actually lose weight. Yeah, and it is really not funny, either out of postpartum depression or other issues, or just personal issues, or getting overwhelmed emotionally, by, you have a child there. There are so many things, to be honest, that go on in your mind, and you may end up not eating. You may end up not producing enough milk for your child. That could really overwhelm you and stress you out. You end up not even eating more, and you end up losing weight, and it becomes drastic. And yeah, people lose weight. Something you didn't know. The other thing, of course, is weight gain. Majority of us women go through that, and it happens, and there's nothing wrong with bodily changes that go on with us post childbirth, because I think this is a sign of the reward. Like, after childbirth there's the baby, so something has to give. You have your child, but yeah, something give. And so that's that. It happens. It's natural. It varies body to body. There are people who snap back, but even those who snap back will tell you there are changes that you may not see that perhaps have happened to them. But weight gain is the most talked about. It happens, and I mean, you've given birth to a child, so please don't expect us to be the way we were before that. And it takes time for you to go back to normal again, depending on your body, depending on the genetics, depending on all of that stuff. There are people who snap back immediately. There are people who it'll take time. There are people who are like, you know what, fuck this shit. I'm good the way I am. I admire them. And yeah, weight gain is such a big change that people talk about. And then we have if you've given birth naturally, of course, post that, there are changes that happen. You have to nurse your wound, to be honest. Let's just talk about it. We do not talk about that. But it is not only people who've had a C-section that have to, you know, nurse their wound. But with post-childbirth comes a scar for natural mothers in some, and for the mothers who've had a child through C-section. And immediately after that, you have to nurse your wound. It's a change, yeah. And you'll have the scar permanently for the C-section. I don't know about natural childbirth much. I don't want to come up with assumptions, to be honest. There are so many assumptions around it that I do not want to touch because I do not have that knowledge. For the C-section, even now, once in a while you find that your scar itches. You're itchy every once in a while. I don't know whether it goes away, but most mom tells me it comes and goes, and it's natural. It's not that there's anything wrong with your scar or anything, but it comes and goes. There's also bouts of aches. You may end up having back aches. You may end up having, you know, joint aches. It just happens and you do not know why. If you've done an epidural, I understand that it's so common to have backaches, to have joints that are aching you and whatnot. If you've had C-section, I also experience that once in a while, and it happens, but it's not as intense. And I think through exercise and, you know, just a great mindset, you can alleviate that. What else? Stretch marks. Yeah, stretch marks happens to some. It doesn't happen to others. For instance, myself, especially my third trimester, I had massive stretch marks, you know. And to me, to be honest, I didn't care about it because it was not part of my concern. Most of my concern was the weight gain than it was the stretch marks. So whether or not it came or went, I was just like, it's fine. But post-childbirth, after some time, I did not use anything, but over time, they kept disappearing. I still have stretch marks on my tummy, around my waist, but it's not as intense as it was in my third trimester. Those things happen, and that's why I tell you, women who snap back may not tell you, but maybe they experience that. It is not visible to them, but it's there. We also have sagging boobs. It happens. Your boobs will sag, and it is okay. You have given birth to a child, and at least we women, at least you've given birth, you have an excuse as to why you've gained weight. You have an excuse as to why your boobs are sagging, and so that also happens. Your boobs sagging, and yeah, there's nothing you can do about it unless you want to, you know, go the surgery direction. But for me, really, I really don't care about that because I can always wear a brand. I'm fine. When I'm back at home, I'll just choma my brand. I'm good. So it's not a big deal for me. It may be a big deal to some, and so these things vary. Weight gain may be a big deal to some, may not be a big deal to others. Your breast sagging may be a big deal to some, may not be a big deal to others. Stretch marks may be a big deal to some, may not be a big deal to others. You know. But the emotional bit of it is what I really hope no mom should want to go through some of these things like postpartum depression and stuff like that. And even if you go through that, I hope you find the strength and grace to get over it. So yeah, those are the changes. And one of the biggest changes for me, as I said, I don't care about my sagging boobs. I do not care about my stretch marks. I cared more about the weight I gained post-childbirth, and I was like, if I continue like this, my friend, I do not know. things will just go haywire. And so I went on a regimen, which I will talk about in my next video. So please stay tuned. If there are any other changes I've not touched on, please feel free to share, comment down below any other changes you women are facing, even when your child is grown. Please comment down below, and yeah, we might just have a second edition of this. Otherwise, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and adios. Bye bye.